They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
This is an incredibly complex question. Let me say this. Nigeria is a very complex country. The situation is very difficult and needs careful thought. It has religious issues involved in it. It has resource issues involved in it. It has different complexities. So I just think we need careful thinking through.
I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington, where President Trump continues to speak out against violence against Christians in Nigeria. Last week, the White House decided to redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern through the State Department, and then suggested military action could be on the table. On the ground in the African country of Nigeria, an international spotlight following calls by President Donald Trump to Nigeria's government to do more to stop the persecution and killing of Christians there. Trump was asked on Sunday if he thought the U.S. military would be sent in.
Could be. I mean, a lot of things I envisage, a lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also.
These are photos of churches burned inside the country. Over the summer, a series of horrific killings involving Christians, including in Yelwata. We've blurred the images of the bodies.
There were 200 believers that were killed in one evening. Homes were locked and set on fire as people tried to escape. They were shot or attacked with machetes. And these were men, women, and children.
Ryan Brown's organization Open Doors US, which tracks Christian persecution around the world, released this map for 2025, highlighting the highest levels of overall persecution of Christians. And while countries like North Korea, Somalia, and Yemen sit at the very top of the list, Nigeria at number 7 also has its own troubling distinction.
In Nigeria in particular, more people have been killed because of their faith in Jesus over the last year than all other places in the globe combined.
In Nigeria, complexities run deep. The country is evenly split between Christians and Muslims, both of whom have been targeted and killed in large numbers by violent terror groups like Boko Haram, as well as a branch of ISIS, and a group of Fulani herdsmen forced off their land because of climate change, with several reports of them driving Christian farmers off theirs using violence. Now, President Trump has also threatened to withhold aid to the country. Some critics say the president is singling out Nigeria in particular because of its president's vocal support for Palestinians in Gaza during this year's United Nations General Assembly meeting. I'm Christine Frizzau for the National News Desk.
The deaths of Christians in Nigeria, especially in the country's north, has been an issue for some Christians in Nigeria for a while. It's made its way back to the American right-wing circles, to the MAGA faithful, and now to President Trump. And there are some in the country, in Nigeria, who still believe this is a problem.
So for me, it's very important they come in, because this has been happening for a couple of years now. Nothing has been done. So I feel if Donald Trump said they don't want to come in, they should come in, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Nigeria maintains there is no religious persecution happening in the country. What it has a problem with is terrorism from Boko Haram, from Islamic State in West African province, and from religious extremists, Islamist militants who target people, Christians and Muslims alike. And that's something that President Bola Tinubu's government has struggled to contain, even though he ran on the subject of trying to deal with that issue of terrorism. There's also an angle of the struggle for resources between farmers, who tend to be largely Christian, and herders, who tend to be largely Muslim. It's an issue that President Trump's own advisor on Africa, a Lebanese-American businessman who made his fortune in Nigeria, addressed recently.
People of all religions and all tribes are dying as a result of terrorist acts, but it's very unfortunate. We even know that Boko Haram and ISIS are killing more Muslims than Christians. So people are suffering from all sorts of backgrounds. This is not specifically targeted about one group or the other.
Out front now, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges. General Hodges, I really appreciate your time, and I'm grateful to be talking with you. You just heard Elena's reporting when Trump put up the post threatening that the United States could go into Nigeria, his words, guns a-blazing, and her reporting was that explicitly followed a Fox News segment, right? So we saw the segment, and he threatens the United States going into the largest country in Africa with its guns blazing. What's your reaction to that?
Well, of course, my first thought was guns blazing against what or who? I mean, where are you going to go? If I'm the commander, I'm asking what is my mission? And the killing of Christians, which is unacceptable, as well as the killing of innocent Muslims, also unacceptable, is being done by terrorist organizations and criminal gangs. So perhaps we should be thinking about how can we help the government of Nigeria protect its own people. And I think there are some economic tools, sanctions against some of the leaders so that they feel pressure and they're held accountable for doing what should be done. The lawlessness and the chaos, the gangs in Nigeria, is certainly very present when you're on the ground there, as I've been in both Christian and Muslim areas. One Nigerian official responded to Trump's threat, General, specifically about U.S. troops, saying, we don't take it literally. Being a deal maker, that's his approach. So what does that say to you? Does that actually say that they don't take him seriously, that he's a joke? Or does it say the opposite, which is, okay, we don't take it literally, but let's have a conversation. We're willing to do a deal. How do you see it? Well, I think you could imagine why Nigerians might look at it both ways. I don't think it's a good sign when the president of the United States is not taken seriously, but it is unfortunately believable that people could think that this is the president of the United States wanting some sort of a deal to gain access to Nigeria's oil or mineral resources. I mean, now that seems plausible, but I don't see any sort of a military solution for this other than helping Nigerian armed forces protect their own population.
I said this came out of left field in the sense because Trump is, all of a sudden threatening Nigeria and deploying U.S. troops there when he's got a massive military buildup going on off the coast of Venezuela and has threatened to get rid of the dictator there, Maduro. Here's what he said last night in that interview on 60 Minutes.
On Venezuela in particular, are Maduro's days as president numbered?
I would say, yeah. I think so, yeah.
So far, this is what we know, General, and we don't know a lot because there is a veil of ignorance that has been put over everything that the Trump administration is doing in Venezuela. But at least 64 people have been killed. We know of 16 known strikes on boats over the past 2 months. That's what we know of, and some of these they've been proud to put out there. But the Pentagon has intelligence suggesting that cocaine is far more likely to be trafficked from Colombia or Mexico, which is nice they're admitting that because that was very well known, instead of Venezuela. So what is the true purpose of these strikes? Is it clear to you?
No, it seems to me, and of course, I, like all Americans, hate to see the flow of drugs coming into our country, killing thousands of people. But the audio and the video are not matching here. They're blowing up boats in the Caribbean coming from Venezuela, but fentanyl comes up through Mexico, and fentanyl has been the drug that they've talked about that's so terrible. And so, but the video, the ones you were just showing, that really catches your attention. And so this is the administration saying, look, we're doing something, even though the solution that they're using doesn't actually address the challenge, which then, of course, exactly as you said, because it's not clear what the objective is, it makes you start thinking this is about something else, such as potential regime change.
Well, President Trump's comments painting Nigeria as anti-Christian has been met with reactions from the country's president, Bola Tinubu, who says that simply is not a reflection of his country. Also adding that his government has made concerted efforts in protecting the freedom of religion. We also heard earlier today from the WTO chief and former finance minister in Nigeria, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. This is what she had to say on the situation.
This is an incredibly complex question. Let me say this. Nigeria is a very complex country. The situation is very difficult and needs careful thought. It has religious issues involved in it. It has resource issues involved in it. It has different complexities. So I just think we need careful thinking through.
Now, complex is certainly the word to describe the issue of insecurity and insurgency in the country. And even though religion is a very important fault line in Nigeria, it's not the main driver of the violence. In fact, according to reports from individuals that have been monitoring the violence over the last few years, they say more Muslims are killed in these attacks. And the reason for this is because groups like Boko Haram or other ISIS-affiliated groups carry out their attacks primarily in the northeastern part of the country. Northern Nigeria is occupied primarily by Muslims, and the south is predominantly Christian. And so this is a very multi-layered and complex issue, as was said by the WTO chief. And it brings other issues such as conflicts over resources like land and livestock between herders and farmers. And so it definitely points to this issue of geography being a bigger determinant as to who is a victim than it is religion or faith. Victoria Rubadiri, CNN, Nairobi.